The presenting sponsor of Moon Tower Soccer is FVF Law.
To find out what makes FVF a different kind of injury law firm, you can visit fvf.law.
Hello, friends, and thanks for listening to Moon Tower Soccer. This week we have two amazing interview guests. One of them is Adrian Healey, the former Austin FC play-by-play announcer. We'll talk to him about his new job with the MLS Season Pass, and he gave us actually a lot of really interesting tidbits of information on that. So excited for y'all to hear that one. Our other guest is Austin FC striker Gyasi Zardes. We talked to him about his impressions of Austin and Austin FC so far, and then kind of dig into how he thinks about the position of striker and the way he approaches playing the game. My name is Landon Cottom. I'm joined as always by Mr. Jeremiah Bentley.
Hey everybody, I'm Jeremiah Bentley. I love both those interviews. They both got me like super pumped up for this season. I think Gyasi, I think it was the most unique player interview we've done because he got into sort of like the way he plays the position more than anybody else has, which I thought was super cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I was giddy about it. I love it. I can't wait for everybody to hear it. We are also going to be posting the videos of these interviews onto our YouTube channel. So the Gyasi Zardes one is going to get posted concurrently with the audio episode, essentially. So if you're hearing this now, then that one is up on YouTube right now, and then the Adrian Healey one will be up later this week. But yeah, I think that's going to kind of be the plan going forward. Is anytime we do an interview, we will then just post the audio to the show normally. So if you are a podcast person and you don't want to mess with YouTube, you're still getting all the content. But if you want that extra video feature, we'll have our interviews on the YouTube page as well. Jeremiah, we should probably not waste any more time since we do have two great interviews. So let's jump straight into the Austin FC news.
Yeah, let's get into it. So I guess the news, two incoming players. Will Bruin was officially announced, which we kind of expected just with him being a trialist, him playing, with the news about Moussa Djitté going out. So this is not surprising at all. Do you have any other notes we haven't covered on him that you wanted to bring up?
One point I'd like to make about him is I saw a lot of people commenting about his age and about how old our strikers are now. And so Will Bruin is 33, I believe. I think he just turned 33 late last year. I'm not concerned about this. Like, I think the only time you worry about a player's age is if you are relying on them to carry a team and to play a lot of minutes. So if our first team striker or our first team number 10 were 33 years old, then I might start to be a little bit more concerned because you're going to rely on that person to give a lot to the team and to kind of carry the team. So if our Driussi player was 33, 34, okay, then I'm concerned. If our third string striker is 34, that's fine. He's going to play a few hundred minutes probably this season. So I think this is absolutely, it feels like almost like a FIFA brain kind of thing, like we talk about sometimes to me. But I think it's fine. I don't think it's a problem at all. Like, would it be nice to have some younger guys developing? Sure. But if the older guys are there and are going to help you win more soccer games, and I think Will Bruin is that guy. Like, he's a veteran, really experienced, proven goal scorer whenever he gets minutes. And he also just brings a different flavor. Like, he's a big body and can provide something a little bit different from what Maxi can off the bench. So I really like this one, and I don't think his age should be a concern at all.
And what's his nickname? The Bear,
the
Dancing Bear. Yeah, I like it. That's a great combination too.
Former guest of the show, Jeremiah O'Shan from Sounder at Heart, did a podcast with Will Bruin, and it was called Bear With Us, as in like the dancing bear with us.
I love it. The other signing we got was an ATX FC2 signing with a very familiar last name, but an unfamiliar first name, Cristo Vela, who came from the team in Cancun. I think he's on loan.
That's right. He just joined them last summer. He'd been in the academy setups of, I know, Chivas and one other Mexican, like Liam Mecky's team. I can't remember which other one it was, but played in the like summer through the fall with Cancun. And now he's Austin FC2 player. He's 18 years old. an attacking player. That is about all I know about him, other than Carlos Vela is his uncle. So
And
hopefully he has
his dad looks exactly like his brother too,
yeah.
right? Like I thought it was Carlos Vela for a second when we saw a picture of him in the airport.
Yeah, so I mean, hopefully he's good, but I have no clue. If he's half as good as his uncle is, then he should be useful on that Austin 2 team.
Another young guy that's in action, which I know this is like I don't know this is necessarily your favorite bit of Austin FC content, but I feel like what we're going to talk about is like right in your wheelhouse, and that is Micah Burton playing at the CONCACAF U17 tournament.
Yeah, so Micah played on the left wing against Barbados in a 5-0 win on Saturday. I didn't get to watch it all because we started recording, but they played Trinidad and Tobago tonight, and I just checked the score, and they won 3-0. Micah started at striker and scored the first goal in that game, and so they'll be playing their final group match on Wednesday versus Canada, and will almost certainly advance at this point. But if they finish, I think they finished top 4 in this tournament, then they go to the U17 World Cup. And Micah is proving himself to be a pretty important player to this team. And so if they can advance, then Micah's probably going to be going and representing Austin FC at the U17 World Cup. So that's pretty great.
That is, yeah, that's pretty exciting news. I mean, it's so he's played on the wing, he's played at striker. Where do you see his natural position ultimately settling out?
Man, so it's really weird because he's very, very talented. As far as just like ability on the ball, he is one of the most talented players on that team. The most talented player on the team is a kid named Cruz Medina, who plays in one of those attacking midfield roles. And I think like maybe that guy's keeping him out of that position. So on the left wing, he had some really bright moments, but also had some like pretty predictable tendencies over there because he's a guy who wants to be close to other players and combining. And as he was like pinned wide, he would always try to cut back in onto his right foot. And it felt like over the night, it got really predictable. And so even though he was able to get in and have some really bright moments, there's some other times where he didn't look so sharp. Playing him at striker, I've said this on the show before, I really don't like when they play him at striker. That being said, he looked pretty good from what I saw. I watched most of the first half, which I think they were up 3-0 by the end of the first half. He still very much wants to get in the midfield and be a creative player, like a playmaker. And so he tries to do that from the 9 as much as he can. But he also, when the moment called for it, made some really nice runs in behind or nice little moves in the box and looked like a proper striker at times when he needed to, which is great to see. Like he's grown in that way, because last time I saw him play striker, he did not look like he knew what he was doing. And this time he did, and was a really useful player. I know at some point in the second half, they brought in another striker and he moved to the right wing, and that's when I had to turn it off to start recording. So I have that recorded, and I'll watch it and see how he looked in all 3 of those different positions. But I think it's super cool that Micah's being such an impactful player on this national team.
Let's keep the player news going. I think we can confirm this for sure now at 1:00 on Tuesday. If you're listening to this on Tuesday, Austin FC is going to host a special press conference at Q2 Stadium. The participants being Josh Wolf, Sean Rubio, and Sebastian Driussi. So I think it's pretty safe to say that we're going to get a Sebastian Driussi contract extension. But we've seen some pretty credible rumors about that. Maybe you want to talk about that before we get into the announcement itself.
Yeah, the first we heard of this was a tweet from Fabrizio Romano, who, for those who don't know, is like the leading transfer reporter in world football. And so the fact that he's tweeting about it, I think, is pretty safe to say that it's happening. And then an hour later, we get that media release from the club saying, oh yeah, Driussi, Wolf, and Sean Rubio are going to be there. So yeah, he's getting a contract extension. I think now it's going to be interesting to see for how long. They probably won't tell us how much it is. We'll have to wait for the MLS Players Association release to find out exactly how much he's going to be making. But the Romano tweet said that it would make him one of the highest paid players in the league, which seems right. Like I don't
He
see how it would
deserves
be
to be,
anything
right?
else.
Yeah, what was he? Was he like 20th or something last year? Does that seem right?
Yeah,
Or
I
somewhere around
think in
there?
the first release, I can't remember what it was in the second one, but it was around 20 mark. Yeah.
And what do you think this says about, or does this say anything about the club and sort of Austin's approach to roster building?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a great sign as far as like the ambition of the club. There's kind of this blind, almost reckless ambition that we've seen from some clubs, like early Cincinnati, Miami. Maybe you could say it about LAFC at some points. They've proven that they have the quality to back it up. So I don't know if you can call it reckless on their part, but a few teams who are spending money seemingly just to spend it. And so in this situation, there are teams in MLS that if they could have sold Driussi, they would have. Or if Driussi's wanting to stay for like huge numbers, they maybe would have rather have sold him than try to give him a new extension. In this case, like Austin has not been one of those recklessly spending teams. They've spent transfer fees, brought in some pretty high number players, but they're not spending huge transfer fees like we've seen from a few other teams, and not a lot of them. But as going back to the ambition part, like if you have Driussi on your team already, you already know he's a sure thing. Like he is good. He is one of the best players in this league. If you can keep him around, do it. And that is, I think, yeah, it just says like this club is willing to pay for the sure thing and willing to pay these guys to keep him around here long term. I think if Driussi can stick around, like he can be one of these guys like Diego Valeri, like this guy becomes a club legend, becomes a true superstar in the league, that like whenever you think of MLS, you think of this guy's name, because not only did he have one great year, he had 5-6 great years and became a true league legend. And so this made me think back to when like we were just dreaming about like what the stadium would look like, what kind of players are we going to sign, who's the coach going to be, and talking about like what caliber or what like flavor of player we wanted. And one thing that I always wanted this team to do was to create stars instead of buying them. So I didn't want the Zlatan Ibrahimovic. I didn't want the Sheridan Shakiris. Like I didn't want that type of MLS star. I wanted the Diego Valeri. I wanted the Nico Lodero. Like I wanted those guys like that were not huge names, came here and became legends at their clubs and for this league. And Driussi, now that he's staying, has the opportunity to do that. And I think that's really exciting for Austin fans.
Yeah, I think you mentioned Valeri. I think he was like I believe they're the same age. I think Valeri was the same age when he went to Portland.
Yeah.
Driussi was.
Yeah,
when he came to
26,
Austin.
27. I think that's right.
So it's pretty close. Yeah. So on the maybe, we talked about this last week a little bit. On the maybe out news, do we think Johan Romagna is gone?
Yeah, I think we have some more evidence this time. So he was nowhere to be seen at the preseason game the other day. Not on the pitch, not on the sideline. There's been some cryptic Instagram posts, including airplane emojis, and then it's been hard to tell where he is exactly in them, but there was a photo of him that looked like in a hotel room, and then the next photo was a picture of his parents next to a monument in Medellin, Colombia. And so it looks like maybe he's in Colombia right now. There's still some rumors saying that he's going to go to Olympia in Paraguay, but nothing official. It's all just more rumors than we had last week. But if I had to bet on it, I'd say Johan Romagna has seen his last days in Austin.
Does that make you sad? It makes me a little sad, but it also seems like a good. I guess we'll talk about this a little bit with Adrian coming up too, about sort of like the soccer side of the human side. But the human side, I mean, like he's like seems like a wonderful person, and but it just never came together. And now he's 5th on the depth chart at center back. Like it seems like a good soccer move to send him on his way.
Yeah, totally agree.
What else do we have? We have a jersey release coming on Wednesday. We speculated this on. Do we know anything more other than wild multiple stripe patterns with some weird like blurred out image that may or may not be legitimate that people overanalyzed?
Yeah, I like the analysis of the blurry photos has been the funniest thing of the Austin FC week to me, just because it's like all you can tell is that there's green and black stripes on it, and the rest of people
Exactly.
are like, it's like a Rorschach test of like, what do you want to see in the blurry image? But I don't feel like I know any more about the jersey than I did before having seen the blurry image. Other like we knew it was going to be green and black stripes, and that's what's in the picture. So
That's what we still know. Yeah, go to the party on February 15th. You'll find out what it looks like, and then you will have the opportunity to pay $165 for it, which we found out today.
yeah.
I was gonna say, I was just gonna ask you. You kind of broke some news this week that we almost forgot to put in the show notes.
Yeah,
The CONCACAF Champions League match.
it feels like a lot's happened since then. So Seth Rao, who's been trying to organize a away trip for CONCACAF Champions League, reached out to me and was like, "Hey, I'm hearing that this game might be on. Like, do you know anything else?" And so I did a little digging, and the same person that's close to the situation that gave me the information last time let me know that, like, yeah, a lot of the players did have their visas denied, but 16 of them got approved. And so Violette is planning on going to the Dominican Republic soon, and are going to try to potentially fill out the rest of their rosters with players from outside of Haiti. And so it might be 16 Violette players and a few randos that they found on the street somewhere playing against Austin FC. But it does, like, all signs are pointing towards that this game is going to happen. And so Austin FC will likely travel to the Dominican Republic and play against Haiti's Violette AC. It is unclear whether or not they are actually going to sell tickets to this match at this point. And so Seth and the Away Days team are still very much in the dark on this one. And so there may not be fans there, but it's still pretty cool that Violette's going to get to play and that Austin's going to get to have their first extremely weird CCL experience.
I know. It's like that is a very CCL experience, and it makes me feel a lot better about picking the over last week and over under
With the amount of games or whatever.
With the amount of games, yeah. I was really regretting that choice. I was threatening to submit a second submission with different sets of answers. That was going to be one that was going to change. But yeah, it's the perfect intro to that for fans and for the club alike. And then we had a game, right? We had a game on Saturday versus Louisville City that turned out in Austin's favor. And you went to it. So I guess let's maybe run through some highlights of it. Lineup wise, we got almost a full first choice lineup again, I think.
Yeah, more or less. I think Owen Wolf started in the midfield where you would expect Alex Ring to start. And then the fullbacks were Nick Lima and Jean Kolmanich. I think Kolmanich is probably the one that you would maybe guess isn't the first choice there. But everyone else, it seems like it would be your day one starters, including Gyasi Zardes at the 9 and Emiliano Rigoni on the right wing. I'll be honest, I missed big chunks of the game because the Austin 2 team was playing on another pitch. And from the same hill, if you like ran 50 yards in one direction, you could see the whole pitch of the second team playing. And so I was kind of going back and forth trying to get some eyes on, okay, who's with this team today? Who's with this team today? And I missed some parts of the first team game, but did get some good info as far as who is actually playing with each team. And so the first thing I saw as I walked up is I spotted a few of the academy kids warming up with ATX2. And so the ones that I spotted, I may have missed some others, but the ones I spotted were Drake Fournier, the center back, who's usually the captain of the U17s, Irvin Torres, who is central midfielder, has been getting national team call-ups for the US and Mexico, and then Charlie Reed, who is a goalkeeper. And so those three guys, they're the ones that I would have expected to see out there. Plus Micah Burton, who we've already said is in Guatemala with the national team at the moment. So none of these guys started the game. They may have gotten minutes later on. I didn't catch the end of it, but none of them started. But it's cool to see that those guys are getting rewarded and getting at least to suit up with the second team. Another thing I noticed is that the super draft picks that are not named CJ Fodre were all with the second team. So Jackson Walty, Valentino Well, and Sal Mazzaferro all started for ATX2 in that game. So it does. I know we're speculating. It was like if they don't get first team contracts, like will they stick around and play with the second team? It looks like at least at this moment they are playing with the second team. We'll see if maybe we get some announcements about them getting contracts in the near future.
As far as the first team game goes, I mean, the first 2 goals came from the places you like to see, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Zardes won. Sebastian Driussi won. Given that we did that interview the day before, like I was really excited to. It got me maybe so pumped about the attack, and then to see that deliver. I mean, against a USL club in a preseason friendly, clearly, but right off the bat was pretty exciting. What were your other highlights from what you saw?
Yeah, I was really excited to see what Gyasi Zardes looked like with this team, and what I saw is something I really, really liked. I think he really does bring just a new flavor to this team, and he has a much broader skill set than what Maxi Ruti has. He has some gravity to him. Like he brings players to him. He makes really smart runs. And then he can do this hold up play, like body off center backs, and they can play balls into his feet, and he'll hold up a guy and lay it off to a midfielder. And that's just a thing that like we haven't had like all of those things, like all of the above. We've had strikers who can do this thing well, or this thing well, or this thing well. Gyasi does all of them well. And one thing I really, really liked was you could just he's really fun to watch just move off the ball. And we'll get into this in the interview a little bit later, but there's several times I'd see him make a run and Driussi would spot him and try to play a through ball, and it get nicked right in the last minute. But there was a lot of like them after a play was made or after something happened, them making eye contact and giving a thumbs up. And I was like, yes, this is what I want to see. Those two guys working together and getting on the same page, because I think there's a great, like, after seeing what he looks like in this team, I think there's a real opportunity for him to really lift this team up to the next level.
Yes, that was really exciting. I guess Louisville got one. Anything like Austin basically played 2 separate lineups. Like, do you read anything into who came in sort of in the second 11?
So the first, so they played 45 minutes, and then 30 minutes. So they treated the first 90 minutes like more or less like a real game. And so a lot of guys played the whole time. But I think they worked in
Tarek, Bruin, Jimenez, and Ring were the subs.
Yeah, there you go. So one thing I thought was really interesting was Hector Jimenez played the end of the 90 and then the following extra 30-minute period. He played at left wing, which is where he's played most of his career, was as like a wide midfielder mostly. And I think we had gotten it into our head that he's a fullback now. And after seeing him do that and like thinking about it, I was like, oh, this actually makes quite a bit of sense. And if I were picking it right now, like I would put Hector Jimenez second on my depth chart at left wing, because he looked pretty good there. And like we know what Hector can do in the attacking third. Like he's good in those spots. So if you do that without as much defending responsibilities, I think that's a win-win. And so that was one of the surprises. Another surprise was Rodney Redes was playing as one of those dual tins, like kind of in the Sebastian Driussi role in that final 30. I don't know if that's like a thing they're actually looking to do with him, or if it was like, okay, we're going to play Hector over here. We want Ethan to get some more minutes on the right. This guy's here. It's like, Rodney, where's left? Okay, you're going to play as a 10, I guess. And it almost seems like that's the case. That's what happened. But he was okay. He didn't look like so fish out of water. It was against Louisville's second team for the most part. But yeah, I mean, overall, like Amro Tarek looked pretty solid. Kippy looked good. Granted, again, this is against Louisville's second team. So second team USL squad. But yeah, I think it was like a lot to be positive about. They didn't look amazing all the time, but they put a pretty big score against the USL squad, which you would hope they would do, and they did. So I think there's some positives to take away from it for sure.
Well, we've got 2 more preseason matches left. Adrian will mention this one. Sacramento Republic on Wednesday at Q2, and then closing it out against Inter Miami in Fort Lauderdale on Saturday. Was it the 18th? I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So the Sacramento one, there will be no eyes on it whatsoever from the outside, right? But
Right.
the Miami one, are they going to be doing a stream of that, or are they just letting fans into the stadium?
I believe they're just letting fans in the stadium from the way
Okay.
I read the match. So I don't think we'll. Yeah, we won't. I don't think we'll be able to watch it all, but we'll get some reporting on it. And I saw. Speaking of reporting, I mentioned this in Slack or somewhere, but between having you and the North End Pod and the We Are Austin TV guys out at Faraday Hill, like it was like everybody was getting play-by-play on Twitter.
Yeah.
So it was really cool. I know the team has been publishing more content around these matches, but we got the whole picture just from the fan meeting, which I thought was really neat.
Yeah, it was fun. I stood with them for a little bit, and we're all staying there hanging out watching together, but then they went over to the Austin 2 side, and I was checking their tweets, getting updates over there. So it was a lot of fun following them during the game as well.
Cool. Right. Well, let's I think we've talked enough just amongst ourselves. We also have a lot more talking to do on this show. So let's take a break and then come back with an interview.
Yeah, we're going to do the Adrian Healey interview will come first. And like we said in the intro, he gave us a lot of information that is not publicly known yet. So definitely give it a listen and you'll learn quite a bit. And then we'll be right back after that with our Gyasi Zardes interview.
Well, you don't need words to tell me things that drive me wild, right out of my brain. Well, you don't say it.
We are joined by American soccer broadcasting legend, Adrian Healey. Adrian, it's great to see you, man.
Oh, it's great to see you too, Landa. It's great to see your Verde scarf draped over a guitar behind you as well. That's a sight I love very much.
Yeah, so it was a long season last season. We have an extra long season ahead of us now. Did you get to rest a little bit during the off season? Any highlights from your time off?
Rest as in away from soccer? No, because I basically went to watch the World Cup in England. That was kind of my rest. Well, and it was. I didn't have to work it, so I treated myself to going back there for 3 weeks. Watched the first week of the tournament here. Was here for the England-US game, and then went back for the next 3 weeks and was able to watch it in a more conducive time zone, which meant in bars and such in the evening. So that was fantastic, because that's the first time I've actually been in the UK for a World Cup for a long time, longer than I care to mention. But then it was back to Austin for Christmas, and actually I've been doing a fair amount of games. I've been doing some Spanish La Liga games for ESPN, just right out of the Longhorn network here in Austin. Use their facilities there. So that's been a lot of stuff for me doing that in January. Oh, I did manage 3 days in Costa Rica too. So
nice.
It's been a good off season, but I'm raring to go.
I love it. I wondered about that. People were talking about hearing you doing La Liga games. I'd assume that you did not like fly to Spain to call those. So it's good. I was curious about the logistics. Now you do have a new broadcasting gig for this season too. So let's talk a little bit about how's the prep work going for this Apple TV launch.
Well, it has been, like all startups, I think, and this is what this is. It's a major startup involving hundreds of people and many moving parts, and sort of a grand vision, and two very different organizations in Apple and MLS coming together. It's I got to tell you, it's been kind of crazy, but somehow games will appear on television screens in less than 2 weeks now, I'm kind of, in a way, I have the easy job. I mean, I just have to basically do the same as I was doing before, turn up and call games. But I can tell you, there's been a whole host of months and months of sort of planning and meeting and head scratching and sort of mission statements. I think it's going to be really cool eventually. I don't know what it's going to be like to start off with. I must add that the great sadness I have at the moment with the Apple deal is that my good friend and partner Michael Hood is not yet a part of it, and I do think that's a huge omission on their part, and I think it's something that they will eventually put right, but it's been such a scramble. I think they've just been focused on getting on the air on February the 25th, and I think he eventually will be a part of it, but he's not on opening day, and that saddens me. So there you have it. Just a, my good friend Michael deserves to be a part of it. Sonny Guadarrama is a part of it, which is great.
Yeah.
So there's plenty of Austin. There's plenty of Austin centric focus to have, and can't wait to get going. I'm actually doing a test game Wednesday night this week at Q2. They're bringing Sacramento, and that'll be a full. I'll be able to answer your question a lot more fully after that night, where I get a look at what may be different. I think there's going to be some different graphic looks and some stats may be different. It's just going to look kind of Apple-y, for want of a better term, but it is. I think it will be really cool once it gets going.
We wanted to ask you a little bit about like who your broadcast partners might be here in a little bit, but before we get there, like you said that it's going to be kind of the same old job once you get started. Is that true of this venture? Like once you start calling games, is it going to feel exactly the same as it has, or is this venture completely new on all levels and it is going to be different from anything you've ever done?
I always say as a commentator, your essential job is the 90 minutes, and that doesn't really change. I mean, there can be little things that change about it, certain points of emphasis. Like if we have a new kind of stats package and there's a new focus on Apple sort of, incorporating stuff visually, then that will change the job a little bit. But the essential job is still sitting there enjoying a game and calling it and interacting with your partner. That doesn't change. It doesn't matter who the outlet is. So no, it is the same. I always say they can never take the 90 minutes away from you. It's a beautiful thing. It's like the game. Whatever happens outside it, once you get to the 90 minutes, you're still focused on calling the game the best you can. So that will remain the same.
Yeah, and so when you think about you mentioned that things will be different later in the year, at the end of the year than the start, but you don't feel like necessarily inside the 90 minutes, like the job that you and your partner do, you feel like those will probably be essentially the same, and it'll just be like the packaging and the things around it that'll change.
Yeah, and I think it'll be a different experience for the viewer. I'm saying from a personal point of view as a commentator, it's essentially the same job. I mean, the viewer ultimately will have perhaps a very different, a lot more options. I think the whip around show will be amazing. And I think there's going to be a pre-game show involved. The studio side of it, the studio support, everything kind of packaged around a game that we've seen, maybe a Sky Sports do so well in the UK over the years with all their big games. It's going to be that sort of treatment, that sort of coverage. So I think as the viewer sat at home on a Saturday night, being able to watch essentially 14 games in the space of 5 hours, it's going to be a remarkable experience. But
I'm pretty excited about that whip around show. Yeah. I think that'll be cool.
Yeah, me too. I actually loved doing whip around shows. My time at ESPN, it's always a lot of fun. It's like, the purists are like, well, you don't get to see a whole game, but I mean, it's like when you've got multi games happening. I mean, who doesn't love the Champions League whip around shows? We can go, let's go to Istanbul. It's a goal, or they've hit the post in Paris. It's great. It's real theater. So love that.
So we will be sad to see you without Mr. Lahoud sitting next to you, but I'm excited to see who you're going to be partnered with. Like, I guess my first question is, will you have a permanent broadcast partner, or are you going to be kind of mixing it up every week?
So the answer is, the plan right now is yes, but that plan, like many things in year one, is probably subject to a certain amount of tweaking and change. But yes, as far as I know right now, my partner is going to be Kobe Jones.
All right.
He's best known as he did the LA Galaxy games for many years, and obviously was a storied player. And interestingly, I've never actually worked with Kobe before because he was always on the Fox side of things when I was on the ESPN side of things. But I've always enjoyed his company whenever I've met him, which hasn't been that many times. And he has a nice kind of relaxed, laid-back demeanor about the game and about life in general, which I think will go well together. So, but he's based in LA. I'm here in Austin. So as soon as we saw that pairing, we were both like, one of us is traveling each week, or maybe we both are. So yeah.
That was my second question for you is, are your assignments going to be regional or team specific, or do you have any idea how that's going to work?
Yeah, well, again, I can only tell you what we've been told for the first 6 weeks. That's how they've approached it. They're doing it in 6 week chunks. I was hoping, I was kind of under the impression that it was going to be a little more regional than it actually looks like for the first 6 weeks. I'll tell you, I'm doing, well, for starters, I'm going to San Jose twice. So that's a 4-hour flight away. I'm going to Kansas City. I have one Austin home game in the first 6 weeks, and that's the Colorado Rapids game on March the 25th. So it's a little bit of a smorgasbord. I think I will get to do more Austin. I think they were very kind of careful about not putting people on the teams that they've become associated with right coming out of the gates. They've been they're very sort of cognizant about wanting to be a national show. So rightly or wrongly, they've taken the viewpoint that means taking people away from the teams that they most recently did. So Max Brados won't be doing LAFC, and Steve Cangelosi won't be doing the New York Red Bulls. There are, of course, exceptions to every rule, and some teams are getting to do the teams that they did last year. But they're mixing and matching, trying to keep people somewhat geographically. But I think how I ended up going to San Jose twice is a mystery, because that's in no stretch of any vivid imagination is that local. So I will treasure my my Q2 assignments whenever they arrive. And actually, another thing I'm looking forward to is potentially getting to do Austin on the road and actually being there for a road game. Because of course, even doing the last 2 years with the Verde and Black, we never actually got to travel. Well, we did travel once up to Dallas, but we didn't generally go on the road with them. Did every game from Q2. So that may come a little further down the line.
That'd be cool.
Kobe must have bribed the
yeah. He seems like he's got the home more than you. So I was gonna now, but if one reads your Twitter bio, there is still Austin FC digital / linear content in that. So maybe talk about what your plans are. Either you haven't updated your Twitter bio, which is happens from time to time, or like what do you see yourself doing for the club this year?
Well, the lack of updating is probably a sort of 100% certainty. But no, it is more by luck than accident. It is actually accurate. I think the club are going to make some announcement very early next week about it. So I probably shouldn't spill the exact beans, but I can tell you, yes, there'll be some form of what we were doing last year. Myself and Michael will be involved. There'll be some digital. Last year we did Match Day -1. There's going to be some version of that online. There's also going to be a TV. I can't really call it a pregame show, but it essentially will be that, like a half-hour studio show, which will actually be taped ahead of time, but it'll kind of act as a pregame show. I'm not sure what the latest plan is for when that will go out, possibly on a Friday night before a Saturday game, but some sort of half-hour TV show. And I know myself and Michael will be part of that, and that's all I could say right now. But yeah, that was a big part for me of wanting to move forward, even though it was a brave new world with that. I was like, what can we still do for the club to kind of continue what we loved doing last year. Really loved what we were able to do, particularly in year 2, so much with the pre-game show at the stadium, and then the stuff during the week from up at St. David. So at least we'll still get to do some of that.
Yeah, that's great to hear. I really enjoyed all that content y'all did last year, so we'll be looking forward to that for sure. You said you're not going to get to do as much Austin FC broadcasting, so we want to give you a chance to talk about the team tonight. Yeah. What do you think of the offseason so far? How would you grade them?
I think it's been a very solid offseason, and that's such a naff word to use because it doesn't really mean anything, does it? But it has been kind of depth pieces and some important frontline pieces too. I think the loss of Ruben Gabrielson is being underestimated. I think he was a massive loss, and I do worry about that for a team who had their defensive issues even with him. So I do wonder what that means not having Ruben. And I know they've made several moves to deepen the defensive pool, but I would say I still have some defensive concerns. I think they've done a great job bolstering the number 9 position. I think Gyasi Zardes could come in, and in this system could easily score 15 goals. That wouldn't surprise me at all. I mean, he scored a goal every other game in his entire career with the Columbus Crew, which only ended a couple of seasons ago, and that was a similar system. And I think he's tailor-made for this system. I think he was a very smart get. I was sorry to see Moussa Djite go. Really sorry. I had a massive soft spot for him, and I always thought that there was a really good player in there that could be extracted, and we saw flashes of it, didn't we? And really would have loved to have seen him get another year. But I know from a personal perspective, and probably from what the club needed, it kind of made sense to do what they did. So a little tear was shed there. But
yeah, it's always hard to balance that, right? Like the emotional parts and then like the soccer parts of it, because there's like the same move can be a great idea and a great move and break your heart a little bit at the same time.
Yeah, and we know what he had a baby that he hadn't seen for 6 months, and all sorts of perfectly great human reasons to want to be back in France. And one thing this club does, and they've clearly demonstrated that, is that they do let those factors be a major part. I mean, that was a big part of Ruben Gabrielson going back. Was what was going on with his family.
But it also may be one of the reasons why there's rumors coming out today that Sebastian Driussi is going to sign a contract extension. Yeah. So I think that's the other side of that coin, is if you take care of players, then they want to be here.
Absolutely. It was funny when I was back in England. I told you I was there during the World Cup in December, and some of my friends there who do follow Austin quite closely had seen all the Leeds rumors, and they were getting worried. They were like, "Is Driussi going? I'm like, cool it, guys. Don't worry. I don't care if Leeds are interested. He loves it in Austin. He's found the perfect place. I reckon he's ours." And I didn't know, he was going to be turning around and signing a new deal as quickly. But that news today was absolutely fantastic. I mean, that's cause for celebration in the streets. It really is.
So Austin's going to be playing in a lot of competitions. Is there one that you're most looking forward to, or one that you think they have the best chance in, or think is most important?
Well, it's hard to look past the two sort of continental competitions, which will both be very, very different. I mean, CONCACAF Champions League is going to be a great adventure, and once they get past, should they get past Violet, we all hope they do. Then there's a Mexican team awaiting, and it's a storied, historic knockout competition, and it's just amazing to see them be a part of it in their just their third year. Is just remarkable. But I'm very excited about that, and strangely almost more excited about the Leagues Cup, because I actually think we could do something we could do some serious damage in the league.
I'm excited about this one too. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, especially because of the draw they got with the two Mexican teams at home, and then you get through that and you're into the round, and it's a World Cup, and it's one game and done, and I think it's going to be come July and August. I think it's going to be it's new. People are like sort of a little puzzled by it, but I'm really looking forward to it, and we'll get to cover it as well as part of this Apple deal, so that doubles my excitement about it.
Yeah. Do you feel like Austin? We talked about the offseason adding frontline and depth. Do you feel like this is a club that's deep enough now to make a run in a way that maybe they couldn't have last year? Obviously, the first season it was basically, do you have a pulse? Do you own cleats? Then show up at Q2 Stadium. But do you see Austin be able to compete on multiple fronts?
I hope so. I mean, it's it has been tough to do historically for teams that have a lot more experience at doing it than Austin do. It's particularly with the Champions League and coming early on in the season. We all saw how it derailed Seattle and Montreal last year. It's just very hard to do, balancing the demands of the league. So I'm very, very intrigued, just like everyone, to see how the coaching staff manage this, particularly when you think about how last year the whole of our league success was really predicated on making that great start. I mean, I was looking back at it just the other day, sort of refreshing some notes. I'm like, my goodness, at the end of April last year, we'd basically done the hard work already. We were 6-1-2. We were top of the Western Conference on 20 points. We only had to go 500 from that point on to smoothly sail into the playoffs. So we really did that work early on, and this year it's going to be a lot harder to do that. I mean, the schedule is also tougher, but who knows where we're going to have to go next in the CONCACAF Champions League. So it's going to be tough. I think in the MLS prognosticating world, I've seen the exact opposite we saw last year. All the famous laminated predictions about us finishing 11th, 12th, and 13th, and everyone seems to be going the other way this year. All the national pundits are like, oh yeah, they're definitely top three in the West. Some even saying first and second. I'm a little more cautious about my year 3 predictions for us in the West. I don't think there's any doubt at all we're going to be right in the mix for a playoff place. But last year was so exceptional, and I know how hard it is to repeat in this league, no matter how good you are. And I look at how quickly things can change. I'm just a little more cautious about my expectations for us in the Western Conference this year. Because remember, a lot of teams, we also took advantage last year of a lot of teams having off years, like Seattle and Portland, Sporting Kansas City. I think all of those will be back gunning for playoff places. So it's going to be tough.
One thing Jeremiah has said on the show before is that it's possible and almost likely for us to be a better team this year and finish lower in the table. Like totally. Both of those things can be true and might be true.
Absolutely, totally agree. I mean, we could actually play better football and not come away with as many points. I mean, think about it. Last year against the Eastern Conference, we were 6-1, and we got a ton of points against the Eastern Conference last year. We're not even playing as many games against them this year, and it's going to be a dogfight in the West. I mean, it always is, but I think we will. Yeah, we have a deeper team, but we're going to need every ounce of that depth, and we just again, Sebastian Driussi is. He has another year like he did last year. If he turns out to be another, let's say, Sebastian Giovinco, and has 3 or 4 absolutely MVP caliber years in a row, then he'll take us with him, and we will be competing for honors every one of those years. That's one of my intriguing questions for this year. And can Mr. Emiliano Rigoni contribute too? That could be a big difference maker and it's a big if.
It is. Yeah, I have the belief. I mean, that just Driussi got so much better with an offseason connecting with the rest of the squad, and I believe that we will likely get the same for Rigoni, or maybe that's just like my hope and maybe not my actual belief. So before we let you go, you got a gig this weekend. You're getting back into your radio roots, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, how could I not in this great music city? I know you both love your music too, and almost since day one of getting here, I've had KUTX on my radio almost constantly. What an amazing station it is, and yeah, lucky enough to get asked to coincide with the start of the new MLS season to come in and do a my KUTX session. So that's gonna air this Saturday at 6 p.m. on KUTX, where I get to. I tell you, it's a hard task trying to pick songs just for an hour. I mean, I think I changed my playlist about 10 times before eventually recording it. So
I'm excited to hear it. I think last time I saw you was at the Soccer Assist fundraiser, and we got to talk about music in your radio days for a little bit. And
yeah,
I wasn't sure like what all kind of music you're into, and so I'm excited to hear it because you got good taste.
Yeah, well, I'll be interested to hear what you hear of it, and how much you've heard of it. And you'll have heard of some of it. Others maybe a little more obscure. I mean, I kind of do a chronological journey through stuff I've liked for my entire life. So it starts early in the 80s and then ends up in nearly the 2020s. So yeah, that was good.
Awesome. Can't wait.
Yeah, my KUTX. What a great station. We're lucky to have it. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
All right.
Lucky to have you guys too. Thanks for doing what you do.
Well, whatever. We've said this before. We'll say it again. The fact that like Adrian Healey answers our texts and emails is one of the coolest things about this whole experience.
I will tell the listeners that I recommended you to the very fine gentlemen who are going to be calling the Austin opener against St. Louis for Apple TV. That's Tony Husband from Nashville and Ross Smith from Portland. They are going to be a team, and they're coming in to do the opener against St. Louis. And Tony was asking me, so how do I get the pulse of what's going on in Austin and what are the fans talking about? And I was like, just Moon Tower Soccer every Tuesday morning. Give it a listen. That's all you need. So now he's going to hear me on there and think I was just blowing my own trumpet.
Well, you are far too kind, Adrian. Thanks so much for coming on the show and having done it in the past. Yeah, like Jeremiah said, we're thrilled to even be able to speak to you every once in a while. So thanks so much, and best of luck in this new season with MLS Season Pass. Thanks, guys. Can't wait to get going, and can't wait to see you all at Q2 again. I'll be there on opening day. Can't wait. See ya.
No one is around.
Moon Tower Soccer is brought to you by Sage Wilson Property Group.
If you or someone you know are in need of Sage real estate advice in Austin, you should talk to our friends at Sage Wilson Property Group. You can find them online at sagewilson.com.
And as always, Moon Tower Soccer is brought to you by our friends at FVF Law, the official injury lawyers of Austin FC.
FVF is a different kind of personal injury law firm dedicated to community, transparency, and client education. And so our main contact, Caitlin, over there, does not always listen to the show. But she told us she did listen to last week and liked it. So, Caitlin, if you're listening again this week, hello from Landon tonight.
You can go to fvf.law to find out what makes FVF a different kind of injury law firm and why understanding your legal options can dramatically change the outcome of a case. Once again, that's fvf.law. All right, we are thrilled to be joined by Austin FC striker Gyasi Zardes. Gyasi, thanks so much for doing this, man. How's it going?
It's going great. Thank you guys for having me.
I'm guessing you finished training not too long ago. Is that what you've been up to today?
Yeah, so we had training earlier. Today was a windy day, so we kind of spent more time on the field than expected. But yeah, usually I'm home around 2:00.
We saw you out playing golf yesterday. You looked the part, man. You look like you've been golfing before. Are you a golfer?
Yeah, I mean, I like to golf, but my golf game says otherwise. It was funny, man, because I didn't get the memo. I thought everybody was gonna come in their golf gear, and it was like me and a handful of people had golf attire on, while everybody else had like just a jumpsuit on. I was like, oh no.
Looks like Hector was dressed for the game as well.
Oh yeah, he's always prepared and always has style.
Jeremiah's actually played with
That's
Hector
what I was going to
before.
say. Yeah, I had a chance to play with Hector a couple months ago. Do y'all play golf together very much?
Oh
At all?
yeah, man. Me and Hector, we played golf in the past. What was that? 2018 and 2019, we played golf before, and then this preseason we had an opportunity in Florida to jump on the course at IMG and play.
Nice.
But he's good. He's good. How are you compared to Hector?
Hector carried me a lot. We were in the same.
Yeah.
We were playing like a scramble tournament. And yeah,
Okay.
he looked the part. You know, when he hits the ball, it goes a lot farther in the general direction he wants it to, and that does not always happen when I do that.
Yeah, he's consistent.
Yeah. Well, I want to ask. So, how's the family like settling in to Austin? I'm a dad of 2 kids. You're a dad of 4, so I imagine you're like twice as busy as me. But how's that going?
Yeah, no, man, they're loving Texas. 3 of my kids are here at the moment. My oldest daughter is still living in Denver. She's finishing up her dance season, I should say, because like they've been training all of last year, and now they're finally competing the next 9 weeks. So she's still in Denver, but my son, he's at school with a couple of kids within the neighborhood, so he's loving it. 2 of my younger kids go to all Spanish speaking school, trying to become bilingual, and they're loving it. And they're so quick to get out the car once I pull up to the school. I'm like, man, they must be doing something right in there. So, but they're really having a good time out here.
How is your Spanish, Gyasi?
It's okay. Yo hablo poquito español, pero necesito más práctica. Yeah, so living in Los Angeles,
You're all right.
I could speak it. A bunch of my friends, growing up, spoke Spanish, so I was around it and tried to speak it as much as possible. But living out in Columbus for a while, you kind of don't use it as much.
Yeah, you'll get opportunities here. I mean, if nothing else, with your attacking teammates, you can practice a lot there.
Oh yeah, we speak a lot on the field and off the field. Yeah.
Are we going to get to see you on an episode of Mate Con Vos at some point then? Have you seen them do that?
I haven't seen it yet, no.
Yeah, it's like a little like chat show that Maxi and Diego and Seba all do.
Okay, I'm sure I'm going to experience it this year.
It's pretty great. Going back to your kids for a second, I saw a photo floating around of your oldest in an Austin FC jersey. Is he going to be in the academy now?
Yeah, so he was trying out the past 2 to 3 weeks, and he made the team, which is amazing. So he's one of the younger kids on the team, but he joined the academy and made it, and I'm excited about his little journey of becoming a better soccer player, but more importantly, his love for the game growing over the years. So it's nice. He's already I think they went up to Dallas last weekend and played a couple games against FC Dallas and a couple of other clubs up there. And when he got back, I was like, hey, how was it? And he enjoyed it. He thought it was fun and competitive. And, that's all I ask as a parent, that, he just keep growing with the game and keep enjoying it.
That's great. Yeah, I was looking through players, and I think you're the first player with kids old enough to even be in consideration for the academy. I think maybe there was some players with girls that would have been of the age, but I think you have the first sons that are old enough to be in that level. So it's pretty cool to see multiple generations in the system now.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. That's crazy to even think about. Like, he's a part of the system, and man, I joked with him the other day. I was like, "Hey, G, you played an official game already before I have."
That's funny. You grew up in a big family yourself, didn't you?
Yes. It was 7 of us total, including my parents. 5 siblings. I was the 4th child, and I'm so used to a big family. I loved it growing up, and even to this day, we're all involved in a group chat, and we communicate within that group chat every single day. Whether it's good morning or what do you have up for today. It's amazing. So for me to have 4 kids and a big family as well, I get to see now from a parent perspective of that upbringing. So it's incredible.
Did I hear somewhere correctly that your dad was a musician?
Yeah, so he played like percussion, You know, he played percussion. He's real big into music, like, you know, love music. And, you know, earlier on, he's actually the one that got me inspired to not only play the guitar, because he brought me my first guitar, but also he was the one that kind of influenced me to have an ear for music as far as like different genres and different eras. And now, like, as a hobby, I DJ. So it allows me to, you know, catch on to different music from different backgrounds and kind of sync them together. And, you know, that's all coming from him, because growing up around the house, we always had different types of music playing.
That's great. Yeah, that was going to be my next question, is if you picked up an instrument. So you play some guitar.
Yeah. I play the guitar. I've played it like off and on since the 7th grade. You know, sometimes I'm like playing, and then a couple months go by, I'm like, I'm not playing. But now that my kids are older, I DJ as well, and that's been the fun one for them, because my daughter, she plays the piano, and my son, I tried to get him into the guitar, but my youngest son, my 2-year-old, this guy loves to DJ. I mean,
All right.
yeah, he'll grab my hand and go to the DJ booth. He's like, DJ. So
that's so sweet.
Yeah, it's incredible, because like he wears glasses. And so his DJ name is DJ I See You. So while he's DJing, we're always like, DJ I See You. And he's amazing.
That's amazing.
He's going to be the one with the ear. He's going to be the one with the ear for music next.
So this is, I know, tangentially family related, but most of our listeners will probably have heard the story about your hair at some point. Mm-hmm. And that you initially started dyeing it so that your grandparents could pick you out on TV when you were playing. So my wife has gotten into soccer because of Austin FC. She didn't really pay attention to it, like knew I was really into it, and would watch a game with me every once in a while. But she's really close with her grandmother, who's actually still with us. And I told her about your hair one time when I think it was probably the national team playing. And I was like, I told her the story about your hair, and she was like, "Oh, that's amazing." And so like, you're the first soccer player whose name she ever remembered. And you're like one of her favorites. And so whenever she heard that you were coming to Austin, she was super excited.
Oh, that's incredible. I know. It's crazy, because like the Mohawk was just supposed to stay, you know, maybe for a month or two. And here it is, man, on my 11th season, I still have the same hairstyle.
Would you ever consider going Verde for a few games?
Ooh.
Or has it got to stay blonde?
Yeah, I think I just keep it blonde, because man, it's a lot of guys on the team. You got Diego. He puts all kind of colors in his hair.
Yeah.
You got Seba. You have you know, Danny as well. These guys, they love to mess around with the colors. So I'll let those guys, you know, put all the fancy colors in their hair, and I'll just stick to the basic.
Stick to your roots.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's like a lot of flair and swagger in that group. You know, you may have to like step it up in terms of like outfits and hair and all those things.
Oh yeah, you're right. Hey, I come in with my dad outfit, and you got these guys on the first day looking all fly. Yes, he'll grow on me.
That's good. Well, I don't think we need to like read back through your bio, but you know, 67 U.S. national team caps, 100 goals, close to 100 goals in MLS. Like, you had obviously lots of options. So, like, why Austin?
Yeah, for me, man, it was definitely a move that I communicated with my family as well. You know, because in the past, the decisions were like based on me, like, hey, I want to go here, and you guys cool coming with. But now that my kids are older, my family older, you know, I had a lot of dialogue with my wife, because, you know, not only am I uprooting and leaving a city, it's also, you know, they're coming with me, and they're of age to where like I'm kind of taking them away from their friends as well. So that was one key factor. But then the most important thing was the team, man. I played under Wolfie in Columbus. He was my strikers coach when Greg Berhalter was the head coach. And, you know, I've worked with him in the past, and I had the best year of my career, that 2018 season. You know, I believe I scored 19 official goals, not counting a couple goals in different tournament play. And then not only that, the team is so structured and detailed to where as a striker, you know exactly how you're going to score. I talked to a bunch of strikers within the league that play on other teams, and they tell me like, gee, I go into games and I have no idea how I'm going to score. I don't even know if I'm going to get a shot. And I'm like, yeah, man, but here in Austin, there's a foundation to the style of play. And yes, through the course of the game, things go away from that. But you know when a certain player gets the ball, what kind of runs to make, because you know that's an option that he can pass or shoot, collect a rebound. It's so many options for a striker. And for me, just having multiple opportunities in a game, my eyes lit up when it was like Austin's interested. I was like, what? Like last year, I think they had one of the highest crossing percentages out of all the teams within the league. So the type of striker I am, I love to be in the box. I love to move around, and try to just get on the end of crosses and finish myself. So, that was just something that just really pulled me into this direction.
Looking at like what Berhalter was doing in Columbus when you were there and what Wolf is asking of you now, does it feel familiar, or has he changed it up enough to where there's still quite a bit you're having to learn?
Oh man, there's always room for growth and improvement. Constantly learning. It's very similar, but at the same time it's like enhanced to where there's more options now. It's not just that one option. Now we have 3 variables going forward to where, okay, if that's not working, we can do this, as opposed to in the past, if certain teams pick up on it, they'll play a certain formation, which will give us less opportunities, So, but with this one, it doesn't matter what formation the team is playing. We'll still have numerous opportunities. And I'm trying to give you an answer that's not really giving out, too much information.
Yeah. We got it.
Case, some other people are watching this like, oh, they're doing this,
Well, we don't want to get you in trouble for sure.
Yeah.
Is there anybody, I know you haven't had a ton of practice yet, but you mentioned like guys who fire in crosses and connecting. Is there anybody that you've really like grown maybe a little bit of a relationship with in that way already?
Yeah. So man, believe it or not, after training, there's a handful of guys that love to cross the ball after training, which is rare, because on previous teams, a lot of the guys, they don't really want to stay outside and cross a lot of balls because, that's draining on your body. But here, man, you have Nick Lima, you have John Gallagher, you have, Z on the left. There's so many players that are willing after training to go out and cross the ball. Like, hey, G, you want some? I'm like, of course I want some, man. Like, if you guys are crossing the ball, I'm gonna stay after training and start to get the kinks out now. So once season come around, I'll be prepared, So it's a lot of those guys that are willing to stick around after training to cross the ball, just so I can start getting used to their service, their style, and what they tend to do, whether they're playing on the left or the right, if they like to cut back and cross, or if they like the early one, the hard, early, low ball with pace and power. Every player differs. And for me, the more reps I can get in training with those players, the better I can be.
Yeah, that's another thing I wanted to ask you about, is kind of like building that chemistry with the other guys. Do you feel like you're starting to get there and learning some more as far as what tendencies they have and how it fits with your game?
Oh yeah. The more I train with them, I'm starting to understand it. You got to consider too, there's a lot of guys during preseason, there's a lot of guys out there. And obviously as preseason starts to taper down, also the roster starts to taper down, especially with us having, the Austin 2 team around. So, as the training sessions start to get closer to our first game day, I'm finding myself, really starting to understand certain player personnel that I'm playing alongside, which players are looking for the 9 as opposed to which players are looking out wide and crashing the box. So that's a big factor for me.
What's it been like playing with Driussi specifically? Like,
Man,
we've all seen that he's just like on another level. What does that mean for you playing next to him?
Yeah, I agree with you, man. He sees the game so different. I know when he gets the ball, it doesn't matter where I am on the field, he can find me. And it took me a while to understand that. But once I saw him do it more than a couple training sessions, I was like, okay, he have an incredible eye to where he's looking to play the striker. He's looking, but he's coming full speed running. After he play me, he's running into a space, and all I have to do is just find that open space, because he'll find the ball, he'll get it, and he's constantly moving. He's so eager and willing to not only find me, but also he's eager and willing to score and get on the end of a cross. Because in the past on certain teams, sometimes I'll be the only guy in the box after I receive the ball from a 10. And then we play out wide. But with him, anytime he play me or play anybody else, he's crashing the box with me. Like, he's right there with me. So he's a phenomenal player. And like, I'll agree with you that, he's just on a different level.
Yeah, it's a thing we kind of joke about on the show, that he's just like, he'll pop up out of nowhere and get on the ball or score. But if you play that back, he was on the opposite side of the field, plays a switch ball or plays it centrally. And if you take your eye off of him, you're just like, oh, the ball just fell to him. And then, but if you go back and actually watch his movement, it's like, oh no, he knew where it was going to end up the whole time somehow, but he did.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I'm seeing it every day in training now,
Well, we talked a little bit about, you've played with Hector before. You played for Josh before. You played with Brad before too, right? In Columbus?
No,
so
no,
Brad, not there at the same time?
Yeah, he just left as I arrived.
Okay, gotcha. I missed out on that. So, like, who does it make it? I'm assuming it does make it easier to like connect with the locker room and get connected to people when you've got folks from your past who are involved already.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It definitely makes it easier, because they kind of give me the lay of the land, like things to do, things not to do, so I don't get fined. But also, it makes it comfortable for myself, as opposed from not knowing anyone. I know a couple guys that, I could integrate with. But man, other than that, all the other players, they've been so inviting, so welcoming from day one. They treat me as though I played here the past 2 seasons, which is amazing. There's no egos within the locker room. And the culture is pretty incredible, considering, we're professional athletes, and it's a competitive sport and competitive positions and fighting for places. But a lot of the guys do treat each other like brothers, like a family.
Yeah, that's really great to hear. We've heard enough people say that at this point that it's not a thing I'd really thought of, but it must not be that way everywhere.
No, it's not.
Yeah, people are fighting to put food on the table, so I can imagine it gets competitive in the locker room as well.
Oh yeah, 100%. But everybody have a good head on their shoulders here in this locker room, and when you go out on the field and training, you still compete and you fight, but at the same time, you do understand and realize, like, hey, that's my brother, and if his name is selected, I'm going to support him, and if my name is selected, they're going to support me.
So, looking back, you mentioned your time in Columbus with Wolf. You won MLS Cup there, not with Wolf, but like in Columbus. You won MLS Cup with the Galaxy as well. What does it take for a team to do that? Like, what are the ingredients necessary? Have you noticed trends or like things that you think a team needs to have in place in order to go that far?
100%. At least from my own opinion, I felt like that 2014 Galaxy team was a close team. Everybody in the locker room was close. A lot of different names was called during different times of the year, but the veteran players would lift up the younger players, because I was one of the younger ones. They would lift us up and treat us as though we were one. They wouldn't treat us as a young player when we stepped foot on that field, when it came to 11 guys against a different team. And I noticed that with that 2020 Columbus team, COVID was a weird year, but it brought a lot of us together, especially how the season panned out. We're away from our families in Orlando together. You can't leave. You're in this bubble, and all you have are the guys around you that you see on a day-to-day basis, which that bond and relationship became strong, similar to the Galaxy team. And next thing you know, we're out the bubble and we finish out the season, and here comes the final, and 2 of our best players catch COVID, and younger guys have to step up and fill those roles, and we embrace them, and we take them into our arms like they're one of the vets, and we go on to beat Seattle. And it's the same, feeling and vibes in this locker room. There's no egos. Everybody's close together. And even with some of the younger guys, the older vets are bringing them in like, hey, yeah, you may be confused on our system or our style of play, but listen, this is the pass you have to make. This is the run you have to make. This is the option that's open. So I'm already seeing characteristics of those two previous teams that I've won championships with here in this locker room. And I've only been here since January something. you
Cool.
know? Mm-hmm.
That's incredible. So where do you see, I mean, you have like vocal leaders, you have silent leaders, you have people who lead by example. Like, where do you see yourself fitting in with this group in terms of what you contribute to the culture and chemistry?
Yeah, so I always say, man, I'm a guy who lead by example. I would rather show than the yeah and use my voice because I know that if somebody sees me working extremely hard or doing certain things, I think you feed off that visually and also that energy. Like, oh, he's doing that, I gotta do it. Or vice versa. If I see somebody else working their butt off to go track down a ball that the team just lost. I'm like, oh, he's making that run defensively. I got to go do it, So I like to just lead by example and not say much, but you can see based on my actions.
So we don't want to take up too much of your time, but one last question that I wanted to get into with you is about your role on the field. So you're, I would say, as far as like public opinion, like somewhat of a divisive striker. I think there's like certain types of people will criticize certain things about your game, but I think there's this other subset of people who can maybe see this other layer of your game that's not always necessarily obvious. And I think one of those things is like data people specifically will look at your game and be like, Gyasi Zardes is an extremely efficient striker. As far as those data minded people talking about, like, it's not about how many chances you finish. It's about how many times you can get in a position to get a chance to finish. Are you able to do you engage with the game on that kind of level, or do you think about it in kind of a more like organic human way? Like, do you think about like the data or like take in that data and use that to affect your game?
Yeah, no. So it's different from my perspective. Just because like you said, there's a bunch of people that hate on me just to hate on me, And then you have those people who are like data driven, like, oh, here go the numbers. Here it is. And then you have some of the guys like, oh, that formation fits him or such and such, So for myself, it comes down to the coaches I work with, because I talk to a lot of them as far as critiquing video, from training sessions and also from games, because for myself, depending on what team I play on or play with, I'm watching film on the style and the areas and the positions that I need to be in so that when I have that opportunity, I can vary it. Because on certain teams, there's been some spells where I'll go 3 games and I might have 1 shot or 2 shots, So it's like I have to make it count. So that's why I'll analyze the video clips and see like, okay, if I'm not getting the ball a lot based on the way we're playing, I know if I go here, I'll have an opportunity to score this goal, So that's the way I view it. But the data is always at the end of the year. Like you look at, all right, what opportunities are you getting? What positions? What are the hot zones? That's when you use data to the video as well. Like, okay, in this area, like for example, last year, I think Austin scored 69 goals. And then we'll look at the data like, okay, what were the hot zones? What's the percentage we scored in that area? And then I'll go back and look at that area and look at certain runs, certain defenders, how they're defending that area, to where when we play certain teams, I'll know, hey, that's the area that's the hot spot where we score. So I'm going to go try to manipulate that area and try to at least have one opportunity. And I just need to make sure I bury it.
Yeah, I love that. It reminds me of a quote that I like to bring up a lot from, I think it was from Gary Lineker, talking about like when a ball falls to him, like in the box and he finishes it, people will say like, oh, he's in the right place at the right time. And he's like, no, I'm in the right place every time. And sometimes the ball gets there and sometimes it doesn't, but I make sure to be in the right place every time. So when the ball does fall to me, I'm there to finish it. And like, I love that, like that thought process. It's the thing that a lot of people don't think about or don't notice when they're watching a game.
Exactly, man. And I love the fact that you brought up that quote, because a lot of people sometimes will watch my game and be like, oh, he's an in the box striker, like poacher or tapping. But it's exactly what you said. I watch a ton of film. I know where to be. And for me, I love learning from strikers that are my teammates. Like in the past, a great guy that I obviously watched, obviously, is Robbie Keane growing up, but also playing alongside of him, watching him, how he don't necessarily have to use his speed, but his body feint and body movement. A great guy in the box as well, Josie Altidore, how he used his body. You know, he's strong and big. I'm a big presence, and I need to use my body more. I try to use it his way. A great guy too, man. Bradley Wright Phillips. If you ever see him in the box, and that's another one. I used to be like, man, in training, I'd be like, how is he getting that opportunity? When I go in there, I'm not getting that same opportunity. But you see, he's at the right place because he knows where to be. So it's the same here, man. I'm watching Maxie. I'm watching Will during training, trying to see like their tendencies, their habits, just so I can adapt and add that to my game so that, you know, I can find that easy going. People think it's easy, but you guys, because we're talking now, you guys know the behind the scenes parts, you know?
That's awesome. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, Gyasi. And I think that's all we have for you. Thanks so much for taking this time. It's been a pleasure, and good luck this season.
No, thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to a big year.
All right, we want to thank Gyasi and Adrian one more time. We still can't really believe that we got to talk to both of them, and to have them both on one show is amazing. So thanks to both of them again. Before we wrap up, we'd like to remind you to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Just click the stars, however many you want to give us. We'd appreciate 5, but and then write out a review, even if it's just a few words. I think those little things go a long way into like getting us in front of more people. And same with the YouTube videos. If you want to go on and check out the YouTube videos of the interviews with Gyasi and Adrian, the Gyasi one is up now. The Adrian one will be up later this week. Check out the Patreon if that's something you think you might be into, and then also visit the Striker, where you can get a 30% discount with the code MoonTower22 with a capital M. Jeremiah, what can folks look out for there?
We have a new writer to recommend, and that is Emmanuel Ramirez, who wrote an article on the ATX4 Louisville 1 match. So if you want to get more in depth to what all happened out there over the weekend, then check that article out.
All right. Thanks so much for listening. We will be back next week with another show full of Austin FC news, maybe an interview. We don't know what we're going to do yet, so TBD. But until then, I'm Landon Cotto.
I'm Jeremiah Bentley.
We'll catch you next time.
When no one is around.
Think for nothings you never.
La gente.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
You guys have a good weekend. Anytime, man.
I'm even more excited than I was before for the season to start now after that. Like I'm beaming, Gyasi. Thank you so much.
I love it, man. It's going to be exciting.